we moved out here without a job, just knowing that I was hooked up with the hall and that they had work for me. And we were moving in, and I kept getting blown up by this unknown number after we moved here. And we've been here a couple weeks, and I finally picked it up, and it was the apprenticeship coordinator. And he goes, "Are you in Tennessee?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Boy, I done found you a job. I found you 2 jobs. Which one you want?"
Today's episode is brought to you by the FMA Annual Meeting. The industry's largest networking event heads to Las Vegas February 28th
through March 2nd.
It's your opportunity to connect with executives and leaders in metal fabrication, steel production and distribution, service centers, and so much more. Hear from experts on trending industry topics and the insights you need to drive decisions. And remember, what happens in Vegas takes your business further. Register today for the 2023 FMA Annual Meeting at fmamfg.org.
What was that again?
That's fmamfg.org.
All right. I know in a previous episode we actually chatted about automation, and because I'm a paranoid individual, the conversation kind of extended into discussion of these robot dogs that you see on videos kind of doing flips and demonstrating their dexterity on uneven surfaces.
Their dogsterity?
Maybe. And the most chilling part of it is somebody decided to stick an automatic weapon on top of one of these dog robots, which is funny, enjoyment, entertainment. Right. And then what do we find out happens 2 or 3 weeks later after that conversation? San Francisco has approved the use of robots
that have the ability to
kill.
Yeah. I mean, the AP report here, San Francisco will allow police to deploy robots that kill. I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And
wow,
this is pretty much something that's not been picked up by major media.
Yeah, this is
as someone who's seen every episode or every Terminator. I'm not very happy about this.
No, and we know many fabricators who are trying to get automation in their own shop.
Yes.
This is a little bit of a twist.
Yes, I'm not sure this is a good thing. If we can all have personal robots capable of delivering donuts every day, something like that, I think that'd be a nice way to use that.
So the San Francisco Police Department says does not have plans to pre-arm the robots and has no plans to arm robots with guns, but instead they'll use more explosive devices.
Well, God bless them.
So grenades, in other words.
Sure.
Concussive force.
Oh,
I don't know. So I know people made the comparison to the first thing was RoboCop. In that at least RoboCop had the ability to kind of eventually take control of himself over the programming of his cyborg suit or what have you. I'm not so sure these things have the ability to do that. And if they did, I don't know. We really haven't given them the proper introduction to humanity to make them think that maybe we're kind of worth not using concussive force on. So.
Right. Well, where's the kill switch on the robot?
Yeah. Exactly.
I'd be interested to see what exactly the robot looks like. Because if it's like what Dan's talked about before with like, if you got a Roomba type robot coming your way, that feels less intimidating than having like something with 4 legs like galloping towards you.
Sure.
I don't know, man.
So are you thinking a Roomba would approach, let's say, a hostage situation? And because it's non-threatening, it could get closer.
Well, they're saying it's
barely get through shag carpeting. I think you're trying to put a happy face on this whole story. There's nothing but an intimidation and scariness to this.
Oh yeah.
They say it's a last resort mechanism, but
yeah, man.
Could you imagine like
it's gonna be the first resort? No one wants to get shot.
Yeah,
right.
No one wants to be shot at.
Send in the robots.
Yeah. The door's jammed. We think the guy behind it has a gun. Robot, let's do it.
God, I wonder if, in San Francisco, too, of all places, that's the last place I would have expected.
Yes.
So to bring it back to metal fabricating, you read about San Francisco being so expensive to live. Right. I wonder how much, what type of shortage they have within the police ranks. Sure. And maybe they look at this as being like, hey, we don't have enough guys to fill out a SWAT unit. Maybe we just bring in let's call in the robot dogs.
Seriously, maybe they just need to deploy these robots as like debt collectors for past rent due.
That might be a little more effective.
It all starts out like an industrial and special use, and eventually, whether it's Roombas, what else is? They have robot lawn mowers now.
Right.
You have not exoskeletons, but you have like partial exo. I don't want to call them suits, but to help workers avoid fatigue and everything that. All it takes is some. I'm sounding like a comic book guy now. Some deranged individual to figure out how to put all this stuff together.
Yeah, we've done an article on the exoskeleton safety. What would it be called exactly?
Supportive, maybe, or
support suit of some, not suit, but exoskeleton captures the
so you're concerned with somebody like overriding that system, and all of a sudden it just controls you.
Well, the technology's out there, man.
Sure.
The Army's looking into the suits. Not exactly, obviously, but if you remember the movie with Tom Cruise, what was it called? Where he relives he's in the future and he relives the same moment over and over again.
Groundhog Day?
Not Groundhog Day.
On the Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow, I think.
With
Mrs. John Krasinski. What's her name? Emily Blunt.
I think I saw that one.
But their whole thing is to battle these like super. They're not reptiles, like insect bugs, and I'm starting to sound like Starship Troopers. Wow. It's a different bug. They're much more aggressive and deadly. They have these exoskeletons all the futuristic soldiers wear to be a little bit more effective against this enemy. And they're doing that stuff now. Once again, not exactly the same thing, but in a smaller, more efficient way. Something that's not as heavy, and it still requires the soldier to be actively involved, as opposed to being encased in one of these robotic devices. But it's amazing, like what you've read and seen. Man, it's 10 years, and the way technology is now, it might be 5 years from this stuff coming together. Yeah, Skynet is near. I gotta learn to live off the land up in a mountain or something.
Live off the grid.
Yeah, I won't do good in a dystopian society.
Where would you head? Like, what part of the world?
I think
like Siberia.
Well, you got to be close to a water source.
You want to be under.
Go to sewers.
You want to be an underground.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be like what do they call this thing? The Morlocks from. H.G.
What
Wells.
about Chud? Cannibalistic humanoid underground.
Give my.
What?
Well, I can't.
It was an old movie.
Assuming the family will come with me.
Yeah.
But, few
Come on, kids,
generations in a city sewer, I'm sure you might get Chud.
All we know is Dan has already started building like an underground tunnel system somewhere.
He's like, why did you go to Costco and buy 40 cans?
So that once again, if I start building this underground tunnel system, the first tunnel is going to end up being like a complete circle back to like my house.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to be like 5 years down the drain anyway. So I have no plans, and I'm probably just going to get overwhelmed. Yeah. I'm just hoping that maybe they find me entertaining, like the future robots that run this world will like have me as a butler or something like that.
I don't know. I don't know how much I trust. I feel like if we move that Fabricator Podcast sign, you've already dug out like an Andy Dufresne type tunnel.
I do think about this stuff more than I probably should.
Interesting.
Well, hey, want to talk to Adam Heffner?
Well, sure. Speaking about thinking about things, right? We know he puts a lot of thought into where he chose to move.
Yes. Yeah, he'll do really well in the future.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. He has this he talked about putting out this like map and all this data on where he wanted to move.
Oh, yeah, he had that spreadsheet that he put together in cost of living.
Yep, and picked Nashville at the right time. Now it's blown up, and he's got a lot of business coming his way.
I guess the only way we'll know it was really him is to watch.
Yes.
Stay tuned. The Fabricator Podcast is presented by Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs. As the foundation of the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, NBT is helping the next generation discover their future across the country in manufacturing through hands-on camps and scholarship programs. You can invest in tomorrow's workforce by visiting nutsandboltsfoundation.org. One more time, nutsandboltsfoundation.org. Welcome to the Fabricator Podcast, live from FABTECH, Atlanta, GA. Joined today by Adam Heffner, Maker Table.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
It's good, man. Love FABTECH.
That's awesome. Jim Gorzik is by our side as well.
Thank you. Glad to have you, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Adam, give the people an idea of what you're up to, what your company's about, and what you like to do in terms of metal fabricating.
Yeah, kind of the ultimate goal is we want people to think of us as the metal guys, especially locally in the Nashville-area. We love getting calls of just like, hey, what's the difference between this stainless and that stainless? So we try and be kind of the local experts for a lot of contractors and even home builders and stuff. And we really have two main focuses. We have a retail side that's direct to consumer through our website. We do a lot of stuff for the home. Think like mailboxes, planners, some easy handrails that people they just send us their nose-to-nose measurement, and then we're able to make a product that they can install themselves. So trying to increase access to people's homes, especially for, elderly or handicapped situations, where it's cost prohibitive to have somebody come in and build a full custom handrail. That's like kind of my passion project on the retail side, if you can't tell. And then commercial wise, we chase after a lot of high-end architectural metalwork. Nashville has a lot of bars,
right?
So we do a lot of back bars, a lot of overhead, hanging shelving to hold liquor, a lot of corner guards, base trim, basically weird stuff that architects draw up that you can't buy in a catalog. Is what we chase. So we get in on a really weird item that nobody wants to pick up, and then they kind of make up for the pain in the, can I cuss on this? Pain in the butt. Buns.
We've gone from people worried about profanity to yesterday no one cared. So
good.
Go ahead.
If you can let me loose. We got Bleeper McBleeper sign over here all over it. Yeah. It's the benefits of having a real producer, I guess.
Right.
So, yeah, we chase the weird stuff. We like building something unusual. In the shop, all the fabricators, we all feel like we've built enough squares and rectangles to last a lifetime.
Right.
So we're looking for weird geometric shape, rolled tubes, weird, sloping, curving features, and we'll pick those up, and then the contractors kind of apologize for the rest of the job, for the huge PITA that we just went through, and they give us a bunch of layup stuff like corner guards, base trim, flashing, easy brake metal stuff to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, we were talking earlier before we came on, and you had mentioned kind of the impact this work, especially like on the architectural metal side. This stuff's going to be around for a while. You got to get a kick out of that.
It gives me the fizz, to like, because you get to a point where you kind of wonder, why did I start this business? Yeah. This is such a huge inconvenience to my life. To have this, all these people to chase around and all these responsibilities and self-imposed deadlines, that you need these inflection points where you can stand back and look at what you just did and let it sink in. And that always happens at the end of these big architectural jobs. Yeah. Like I was saying, we did this set of gates at Vanderbilt University, and as we're like walking away after adjusting the hinges for the 10th time and fighting with the door closer guy and the electronic key card guy and the contractor on the schedule, and you're so pissed off and mad and you hate this gate, and at some point you walk away from it and you go, wow, this is gonna be here.
It'll be there
for 50, 100 years. Like, this is going to be here when I'm gone. And that's where the architectural stuff in some regards becomes legacy, I think. And I like driving my kids by. Anybody that's worked construction that has kids, every time you walk by a job, you're like, I built that. That right there. Yeah,
I put hands on that.
Yeah,
I put that drywall up.
Exactly. You just take such pride in it when you walk away, and the day to day, you're fed up with it. You hate it.
Yeah. Your background is in structural, like metals. How has the transition done over the years?
Well, the cool thing is I got in with the Ironworkers Union, which I still advocate huge for, especially young people or people trying to change their career entirely. Yeah. They have a really nice on-ramp. It's a 4 or 5 year apprenticeship program. You're paid for most of it. You're not paid for school, but you get paid by contractors in between. Yeah. And they make it very realistic to completely change your life. So I came out of a family manufacturing business where we manufactured meat.
Okay.
We had about 130 employees and did like 200,000 pounds a day sometimes.
Wow.
So big, high volume operation. That whole place shut down. And at the time I was building a rock crawler, and I was working at a buggy shop, also building rock crawlers, and doing lift kits and wheels and tires and all that crap.
Wow.
And then I started ironworking because I needed insurance. My wife was pregnant when the business shut down. And my neighbor was actually ironworking on a prison in Stockton. And he said, yeah, we got great insurance, man. Come to work with me. So I walk in, gave him a resume, which is stupid if you're trying to be an iron worker. Like, you'd be better off showing him a rap sheet or your like divorce paperwork or something.
Well, for that job, that would have worked very well, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, if you have a DUI, you're automatically into the iron workers. That's what they say. Like, nobody comes there by choice. Something terrible had to happen to you. Because it's hard ass work. You know, there's no bones about it. So I got into the iron workers. My wife gave birth 10 days after my union insurance kicked in. I didn't even have the card. I just went in with my social security number and I was like, I swear I have it. And they didn't believe me. They gave me all the paperwork of self-pay when I left. But sure enough, you know, the union picked up the tab and it all worked out. So I chased the hook, did everything in the ironworkers union. It's actually structural, ornamental, and reinforcing. So I got to learn the ornamental side, building prisons.
Yeah, really?
So not high ornamental, but they were actually prison hospitals.
Okay.
So there was a ton of stainless work in them. Stainless handrails, combi units, ADA compliance came into play. So I learned a lot of the codes and regulations for ornamental handrail from those types of prison jobs, honestly.
Right.
So it did translate because the union gives you lots of exposure if you're willing to humble yourself and be a fool. Like, a lot of guys get in and they want to do structural and they won't take any other calls. They're just structural guys. But I was like, man, teach me, show me. I want to learn this. Like, all this stuff is cool. I mean, even rebar, which sucks, it takes about, 4 to 6 weeks to get your body used to that work.
Right.
Like, I drove in one morning and my whole body cramped up on the drive in. I literally crawled. I pulled over into a neighborhood, crawled onto the street at 3 a.m. in the morning and like laid myself out flat on the blacktop to like stretch my body out because I was so gimped up. It was like my third week. And I just went home and went to sleep, and the superintendent called me and woke me up. He said, "Where the hell are you?" Bop, 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 bop. There's all your bleeps, bud. And and I just started telling him that story, and the only reason I kept my job because I no call, no showed, and it was a 2-man crew, so I was one of two that day and didn't know it. He just started laughing at me, and he's like, "Okay, kid, I'll give you one more shot, but only because I believe you, and this is hilarious."
And then did he say, "Did you get a picture?"
No, I was like, "Rodney, dude, like I've never done this to you, but I'm new to this work. Like, this is hard on your body." And he'd set me on 3 bridges 3 days in a row with 3 different crews, which bridges are about the hardest thing to do. As far as rebar goes, unless you're on a dam working a slope.
Right.
So
you paid your dues, you think?
I definitely earned my spot. I feel that, and I've done the same thing in structural. I started, fire watching for column beef ups, and worked my way all the way up to welding moments with UT inspection at the end. So I feel like I've earned my place in the metal world.
Do you feel like you're at a good spot now where you want to be?
Never where I want to be. Just as long as I'm in process of going where I want to be, I feel pretty good. So I've got a lot of balls in the air, or chainsaws maybe. So as long as they stay out of my mouth, I'm good.
So I was going to ask you about some of the high-end customers you have, like in Nashville. So Nashville is a town. It's like almost doubled in size. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's really exploded. And a lot of high rises, hip, I don't know, Steak and Shake's hip to me, I don't, but you know what I mean. Like, places you go in and they stare at you. But, I noticed like some of your work, you had like a swing out stool. Like it was almost akin to like a wrought iron handrail, but it was like a wooden seat on a stool that swung out. That type of stuff. Are customers or designers coming to you with that, or are you able to bring some of your creativity to like some of those things, or is there a middle ground?
I mean, really, the retail side is where I get to do my creativity. So those bar stools are my design. I worked on those for 3 years to really get them to a price point. I got them working. There's all kinds of stuff I can make, but can I make it efficiently enough to actually sell it at a price that I can make money and people can afford? That is that's the magic recipe in retail. Is we can make anything, but if it's $1,500 a bar stool, your market goes down to,
Right.
you know, that cheese chugger in the yacht that's not on your website, you know? He's got other priorities.
Yeah.
So the retail side is where I get my creativity out.
Yeah.
And then the commercial side is really dictated by architects.
Yeah.
The one thing where I get to tighten the screws on them is if there's lead time issues. So a lot of times people will spec some exotic materials like a brass, or we had a project that wanted Muntz metal, which is a special brass blend that's used in shipbuilding, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I had to learn all about Muntz metal. We did the bid, and then they saw the price of Muntz metal, and then they saw the lead time, and they said, "Oh, we'll just go powder coat."
Oh, wow.
You know, so I get to kind of guide people on finishes using price or lead time. Usually is the driver, and sometimes they just have the budget in this commercial level. They don't care. They want it.
Right.
Period. And then the only thing you have is lead time. So with, you know, COVID and all that stuff that we're just kind of coming out of, lead time still lingering on in some of these specialty places. And that's where I get to be creative. So during the whole COVID thing, I got to redesign an entire set of handrails that ended up in Architecture Digest.
Oh, wow.
So that job ended up in that magazine, and you know, the architect had an awesome plan, but none of the stuff was available.
Okay.
And machining time was too long. So, you know, I went in the King catalog and AIDI and went into these like pre-made parts that were readily available. And I would call every morning and get a live inventory in their warehouse and how many they had. And then I would redesign and submit a rendering to the architect that morning and say, this stuff is available right now.
Right.
And if they waited too long, sometimes they'd approve it.
Right.
I'd go to order it, I'd be like, that stuff's gone. Next morning, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what's in inventory.
Yeah.
So that's where I get to be creative. But at that point, it's such a pain
Yeah.
that, you know, it's cool to, like, at the end. It's
Right.
always cool at the end.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's exciting work. Is Nashville a good place for that?
Nashville's
That type of work?
killer.
Yeah.
There is tons of growth like you're talking about.
Yeah.
The commercial construction's taken off. There's the university. The city likes to spend money there.
Yeah.
There's federal projects that we bid on, like, you know, bus stations that are funded. And, you know, it's a great place for architectural metals. And we get in with not the GCs. Well, we have some general contractors we get in with, and then we get these millwork subs that they buy this whole package out, right? And they have no idea how to do any of the metal stuff. They don't even know how to bid it. They don't understand the lead times. You know, they see like a piece of trim and they're like, oh, well, hardwood would be this cost and this lead time. And then they're like, what do you mean 3/16 number 4 stainless isn't the same price as millwork? You're like, well, sorry to break it to you. And they want we did a job where they spec'd a millwork profile out of stainless.
Okay.
Like if you imagine like crown molding, like all those, you know, humps and valleys and curves and arches and stuff. And they were like, can't you just buy this? They're like, well, why can't you just make it? I'm like, I have to make custom tooling to roll this out of really thin stainless. And then how am I going to polish it?
Yeah.
You know? So we had a shop actually ended up machining a solid block of stainless to make that trim. Wow. And the whole thing bowed when they machined it, you know, towards the face that they cut. Yeah. So then they had to feed it through the roller, and then they had to polish out all the roller marks. I mean, you can just imagine. It's just like boom, boom, boom. The hits kept on coming. Yeah. So we're like, that's why I say we want to be the metal guys. These mill workshops win these packages, and they're like, Adam, what's a number 8? You know, they don't even know. You're like, dude, you bid a puzzle, bud. Like, everything about that job is going to be difficult if you have number 8 mirror polished.
That's funny. That's funny.
You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of the process you're talking about to take not only creativity, but like patience, you know, and especially for a fabricator, because like you're saying, it can be banging one day, everything's working, and then the next it just shuts down. Like you're saying, ordering those parts. So it's like, how do you find the patience to get through these jobs that you're working on?
I get paid for patience. Might as well call it patience.
Patience.
Hey,
There's our portmanteau right
take
there,
out
buddy.
the T, right? Patience.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't really get stressed as long as I'm funded. So if they're making the shop rate, that's what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to be their expert. They hired me to be their metal consultant and fabricator is how I look at it.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at it.
Expertise.
Well, and that's what I say. Like, that's really the goal, is to be the metal guys. We want these contractors, anytime they get in a pickle with metal involved, even if they call us just, hey, you know, what is this? Or they'll call me for rough order magnitude numbers. Like, they're in a meeting and they're like, hey, Adam, what's handrail going per linear foot right now? and you rattle it off, and then they go back to their meeting, and when it's time to bid that thing, you like have first right of refusal almost, because they trust you now.
So have you developed that type of rapport with some of your customers that like come to you right away for any of that metal work they need?
Definitely. We have all the PMs at every company we ever work with. They'll call me for advice, like even if I don't have the job. But it's all just relationship. It's down payment. These guys have been building for 30 years, 50 years.
And I think that scales.
Oh, right.
Small shop, medium-sized shop, even the big guys.
Yeah, these are just fundamentals.
Yeah.
Really, that you can build at any level.
Yeah. How did you get started? Like, how did you, you moved to Tennessee. Like, what was that? Like, what brought you to Tennessee? Obviously, a lot of people are coming to Tennessee, so there's that. But what drew you to the area?
It was the math. I majored in economics. I never finished college. I dropped out when I got a real job. And so just, full disclosure. But
you just learned just enough and said that's good.
Yeah. I still study economics. I still really interested in it.
What have we learned? A degree doesn't necessarily suggest intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't forget what you learned if you leave early, right?
I think a degree is mostly like an indicator of discipline.
Yeah.
Somebody that has a degree, regardless of what specialty, they're a disciplined person, and they can take instruction and they can do something hard and put off what they want now for what they want later. So there's definitely value there, but I don't know if it's enough to substantiate the debt that's incurred. But
I've met too many people that know a lot more and a lot more important knowledge than I do, and they don't have the college degree. It's I think that's become almost like a human resource thing as opposed to like some type of real barometer of excellence in knowledge. So it's particularly in this field where you meet a lot of people. Their school is the school of hard knocks. They learn by doing, and and sometimes that's almost the best way to learn.
Yeah, I think lifelong learning is really the message here. I don't tell my girls they need to go to college or go down that path. I just tell them they need to learn how to learn. Yeah. They're like, why am I learning this in school? And I'm like, it's not about what you're learning. You're learning how you learn. Right. Are you a visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Do you need 2 of those?
Right.
How are you at math? How do you learn new math skills? How do you memorize things? It's not about what you're learning, it's how you're learning. Especially with technology, this show is the perfect example of things are changing fast.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, soft robotics weren't even invented 4 years ago when I came here, and now you can be inside of a work cell with a robot that's not going to kill you. Like, people don't even understand. I've been following that development for the last decade through Boston Dynamics and stuff.
Oh, right.
And they were trying all kinds of mechanical methods to do this, and they finally figured out a software solution where the motors can sense a voltage spike and basically stop their motion. So it's in 4 years that's happened, and one of the interfaces is exactly the same as coding with packets. So if you ever coded, which I haven't really even coded either. I've just done G-code for the plasma and laser, which, that's how we got started, was a plasma table. I built a plasma out of my garage.
No kidding. Wow.
Out of a couple different kits and forum information, and just taught myself. And while I did it, I made a YouTube channel that documented the build process. So I had the dream of becoming this YouTube star, which never panned out. That
we're working on that too. It's not really panning out.
Yeah, but like what I said for YouTube was, I'm gonna suck. I'm gonna suck in the beginning.
Right.
So I had this number. I figured after I made 100 videos, then I would be a good videographer. So I just went the volume route, and I decided to make 100 videos. So I think I've got like 120 videos on there. I got past the 100 mark, and nothing popped. And I was like, okay, this is about as good as I'm going to be. I've invested in enough equipment.
Yeah.
I had a drone. Like I've gone all the way. I've got boom mics and lighting panels, and I went hard at it for a while.
Yeah.
And it never panned out, but I learned a lot. I made a lot of great videos that we still use on the website for sales.
Right.
That help
you got
process.
like 14,000 subscribers.
Yeah, but that's over what, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Like nothing's popped. Like there is a loyal fan base over there. That is, I think people like me when I started, it's like 98% men is the demographic between, 20 to 45, 50, right in that age range. So, and that channel, I really wanted to also like show people how you can start down home goodness, like just right in your garage. And I thought I was going to go somewhere, and I wanted to also have kind of a time capsule that showed like, watch where I came from.
Right.
You know, if you think I didn't earn this or get here from hard work, like take a look at this. And, you know, some of that stuff is rough. And, you know, I was cussing a lot in it because I was still an iron worker. You know, I was fluent and all that.
That's funny.
And, you know, slowly cleaned it up and changed that strategy. And it just, it's not where we're going now. So I don't really spend much time on it anymore.
So, you know, you're talking about economics, and that kind of led you to Tennessee?
Yeah. So with the union, you get a published pay scale for every major metro in the U.S. and Canada. So it's really easy to look at what kind of money you're going to make in each geographic area. And then there's tons of like federal data on cost of living and, you know, different costs like food and healthcare and fuel change by your state, income taxes change. So I made a big spreadsheet of the United States and came up with these kind of Goldilocks zones that had high iron worker salary, low cost of living. And then I stratified for weather because I hate the cold. I get mad when I'm cold. Like, it's not even like, oh, I need to go home. I get angry. I start throwing things. I kick stuff. It's bad. So I knew like Maryland had some good ratios. If you can be in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, there's some good ratios. But I was like, I'm not going to work 2 months out of the year. I'm gonna be hiding at the house next to the fireplace. I just know myself. Or I better get some cush layup job doing fire watch in a factory, you know, with my coveralls on.
For the Fabricator.
You know, like
living large.
Yeah. So then we found this kind of Bowling Green area outside of the city limits because the city has its own little tax. Nashville Metro, Chattanooga Metro, and I forget, it's one of the Carolinas. It's north or south. I can't remember anymore. And so I started calling the halls. And I said, hey, you know, do you guys have work? And they always like brush you off, and then they ask for your book number. And then by your book number, they can look at every certification you have, every job you've been on, your whole performance history, all your grades through apprenticeship school. They can really find your background. And I had a bunch of California welding certs for structural code, you know, bridge code stuff. So he's like blowing me off, types in my number, and then all of a sudden he goes, oh, you're a wire welder. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, come on. We got work for you. So off of that phone call, I called the apprenticeship coordinator a couple times. I called a couple different people at that hall. And we moved out here without a job, just knowing that I was hooked up with the hall and that they had work for me.
Wow.
And we were moving in, and I kept getting blown up by this unknown number after we moved here. And we've been here a couple weeks, and I finally picked it up, and it was the apprenticeship coordinator. And he goes, are you in Tennessee? And I said, yeah, I am. He goes, boy, I done found you a job. I found you 2 jobs. Which one you want? So and there was an out-of-state contractor which paid more, and then there was an in-state contractor which has a little bit lower pay, but you end up being like their steady Eddie hand, and they'll keep you working. So in construction, staying working is more important to me than chasing the highest dollar per hour and being laid off and playing that game. So I went to work for Century, which is a local Nashville union shop that does structural. And they kept me hopping, man. I mean, since I was a wire welder and had the certifications that they needed, there was actually a month in time where they put me in their yard and told me to straighten chokers, if you can see my air quotes. Straighten chokers is a BS job, guys. It doesn't exist. No one needs to straighten chokers. You get on a new job, you need a straight choker, you buy a new choker. So literally they paid me for a month just to keep me on payroll so I didn't go anywhere else. So I was I was cleaning their shop, I was cleaning their trucks, I recertified their cranes. I went and inspected all their welders and got the bad ones out and repaired everything I could, and I made the most of that month, but they would have been just as happy to see me hide in the back in that Connex they put me in.
It was kind of the union protection plan.
Yeah, it wasn't
Witness
even union. It was just that shop knew that these certifications.
That one.
It had nothing to do with the lazy union is not in the trades. You get run off in the labor unions where you're out in the field building stuff. There's no lazy mope out there. Because you're judged on performance and you're working yourself out of a job. Every job you're trying to get laid off as fast as you can, and there's a lot of pride in that too, to have that kind of mentality. And a lot of the guys will say that, you know, if you don't have your savings in a place where you can drag up on a job and strike, then you're not a good union member. But if you have that money saved away, you can also afford to work yourself out of a job and go on unemployment and then wait for the hall to call you on another one. So it's twofold. And they do a lot of stuff to prepare you for that. Like in the apprenticeship, some locals do night school, but ours did a week off of work.
Yeah.
So you had to take a week off of work, and you go to school unpaid, and then you go back to the same contractor you were working for before. So you have to be able to afford a week off for school.
Right.
So that washes out a lot of apprentices too, that just they're not financially fit enough to plan ahead a week. You know, which is sad to say, but you know, that's
financial discipline's a thing.
It's totally a thing, and especially if you want to start a business, financial discipline is where it starts.
Yeah.
You've got to be used to socking money away and thinking of it as zero.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure and go and subscribe to our podcast. Rate and review
and review
as well. And until we see each other again, bye-bye.